the police budget, and Len Crossman, the officer in charge, will be here to present it. Hi.
Hello, how are you?
Good, you? Good. What we usually do, and the chief probably told you, is we go through and we are looking for any changes, increases really. Well,
Sure.
give you credit for the reductions too. But, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't have any mic on.
I'm sorry.
Okay, we'll get hooked up here. Well,
That's milk.
yeah, okay. Can you put it right on the chain, maybe?
You did it backwards.
Oh. Thank you. All right. Guess we're all set, Lynn? So, if you want to go through and explain the items where there were changes to start with.
Sure, sure.
Here's Tony, and he just tells us you're in the
Last week.
islands.
Tell me what?
He said you were on
That was
vacation.
last week, right? Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't here. I'm a little look out of you for some reason.
All right, now we'll get started. Sorry.
Okay, starting at the top, police salaries and wages. As you'll see, it's a $4,000 decrease. Moving on, part-time wages appears to be the same. Administration the same. Overtime is a slight reduction of about $500 really, and it isn't natural when you add a police officer. It's natural that overtime goes up a little bit. Overtime has always been a budget where you just don't know what you're going to get at the end of the year, so it's a best guess estimate. Community policing, relatively the same. Training, oh, I think I'm looking at the wrong one here as a comparison.
Went up $3.
Hang on.
Training went up
Let me-
$3.
Went up $3. Okay, I'm looking at the right one.
Yeah,
Quinville is in salaries and wages. That's the only area that is there's a significant increase of about $9,000. The reason being is two of the officers that we now have on staff have bachelor's degrees, and there's an agreement under their contract that provides for a certain amount of funding for the degrees that they possess. So previously, both of our officers didn't have those bachelor's degrees, so that's where there's an increase there.
for those that don't remember or don't know about the Quinn Bill was in effect some years ago, and the state paid half of it, and it was an educational incentive for police officers. And then the state dropped their portion of it, but many towns like Northfield continued it, and now I believe, as you said, this is in the officer's contract.
Correct.
So they've got it. And back up a little bit up to the first one, police salaries and wages. That's an increase of 44.
No,
It went down.
Oh,
it went down.
that's right. I'm sorry. Minus 44.50.
Yeah.
You're not expecting to need as much time in there.
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So has the actual hours gone down and more people are working overtime?
No, the hours are the same. My understanding is the pay rate that the new officer who was hired at it came in at a lower.
Okay.
We made sure that there was plenty of money to hire based on qualifications.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
And then if you're okay with salaries and wages, I'll move on.
Does anybody have any further question on salaries and wages?
I just have one quick question. In the overall police salary and wages, is the SRO position funded in that money?
It is funded under the police salaries and wages,
Yes.
full-time line
Okay.
item.
Okay, so it's in line. All right, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. So moving on, operating expenses are a lot of the same. A couple $100 here under MDT and radar. Those are just inflation costs essentially. Moving down, $300 under IMC maintenance. Again, we've implemented a new IMC program this year, and naturally there's an slight additional cost to that. A regional program that we use. About $100 in radio, again, inflation costs.
Now this COG radio maintenance, I think it was in the paper today about the meeting that was held. And you went to it, didn't you, Andrea?
No, I was not at that meeting.
Oh, okay. Well, what they're saying is they're studying whether they're going to go in with the state or whether they're going to finance it locally and rebuild the system that we've got. Did you go, Len, to that?
I was not at that.
No. Pretty expensive if the towns have to fund it themselves, but they're going to look into whether there'd be any state assistance on that, what I saw in the paper today, and whether balance it out, see which is going to be better for us. So this is based on, of course, they'll have to continue the present system for a little while longer anyway. So that's what's in here, built into the, okay.
Correct.
All right.
And then moving down, slight increase in police uniforms and equipment. My understanding is that's simply a anticipated. We're still under union negotiations, so we're just an anticipated increase there, and otherwise everything else is level funded.
Okay. Anybody have any questions in that category? Okay. And I guess the next is the capital items.
I can't find my paper, however, I'll go from memory. That there are two items on the capital expenses. One is a police cruiser. For several years, probably, I don't know, going back 15, 20 years, our general life expectancy on a car is 6 years. So we try to replace a car every 6 years, and we have a car that's approaching that limit. My number says, and I have a couple conflicting. What was submitted to you? 52,000.
52, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So-
gone up a little bit, I believe, from
It-
past, but vehicles are going up anyway, so.
Yeah, this is why I don't own a new car, because they're just crazy expensive. However, part of that increase is a result of new models coming up, from what I understand, and the incompatibility of transferring equipment over to them from the older models.
The cages don't fit the new, I guess, and that
No.
sort of thing, so.
No. So, we at times we've been able to just strip one car and transfer it over to another, but when models change, that becomes an obstacle for us.
Okay.
Otherwise, Chief Layden did mention that there is a hybrid option that he doesn't necessarily recommend right now, simply because this is the first year that it's become an option, and it hasn't been tested yet. We don't know what the benefits and whatnot are. So, until that has a little bit more time, he may talk to the Energy Commission.
Yeah, committee.
Yeah.
Committee.
But it's
and,
more expensive
discuss
too,
that.
isn't it?
It is. It's another $4,000 to $5,000 for a hybrid as well. But he did ask me to throw that out there, and just to provide some options. But it's not something we're pursuing right now.
As I understand it, it could be up to $4,000 more
Yeah.
for a hybrid, but
Yes, that sounds right.
yeah.
And then finally, like you had mentioned, the radio system, where the county's looking for grants, and anytime a county goes in together and shares costs and creates regional programs, A lot of times there's funding out there to cover that. However, that hasn't been secured right now, and our cost would be $10,018 for the radio system, the 900 megahertz radio system, in the
So it's-
event that the town has to pay it.
So it's $5,000 a piece, is that what it is? It's $5,000 a piece for each one of them?
For the radios,
It says 2 in
It
parentheses.
says 2, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's second on this list.
priority on this list.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's just priority.
No,
There's two
Well, there
votes.
is 2 in
No, it says
parentheses.
two.
Oh, I see, gotcha over there.
Over here it says.
no,
2.
there would need to be more than 2. I
No,
don't
you
know
had,
the-
well, right here,
Ten.
okay, so, okay.
Down
What-
below it asks
Guess
for
I
10,
Ten.
Yeah.
and it's
Second
40,000.
in priority, but
Okay.
There may have
I
been
think
also
it's
in
2
our current
radios.
fiscal year budget, I think there was some radios that we approved
use?
for purchase during,
So they're looking for, okay, that makes
2019.
kind of sense, if they're
Yeah.
looking for 8
Yeah.
to 5,000 a piece, that's right. So it is
Oh,
2
I
for
see what you're
2000, it's 2 for 2020, and then 8 for 2021,
No, 10. That's
or
10.
10.
He wants-
10,
okay.
10,
For this coming fiscal
Right.
year,
yeah, it's just
he
2,
wants a cruiser and 2 radios.
I
correct.
think those are the base stations, that's why there's 2 and they're more expensive. The others are the mobile, portable.
That will be coming, what, the following
Okay.
year? Okay.
Correct.
All
But is
right?
that, excuse me, is that, what happens if nobody makes a decision
You mean,
before town meeting?
you mean
Does this
if they're
stay in?
compatible with the other system that you're talking about?
Yeah,
Or is
I
this
mean,
something different?
is there something that you already have, or is this based on the fact that they're gonna go one way or the other?
My understanding is, and it's been a matter of time, that they need to move to this 800 megahertz system. The question, and I'm not sure if that's a matter of time that has to happen, or just because of technology
Right.
changes. The question on the table is, can we get grant funding to fund this? And right now, we don't have the answer to that. But if it, so our need would be to supply the funding now. However, in the event that turns out we don't need the money, it can be returned to the town.
But this would be the same cost, because, and I don't know if the paper was right, but there were 2 systems,
There's to
Thoughts?
join the state system
or doing a
create your
new
own
one.
Franklin
Right.
County system. But
Right,
They would
so-
still be both in the 800 megahertz.
Yeah, so they're.
But my question
Yeah.
is, would these dollars cover both options? Or if we don't go with a state system, the one we were doing ourselves was a great deal more money, as I understood it.
Yeah,
So does
But
this,
as I understand it, like you said,
You would
800
use the same
megahertz. would be-
frequency. The question is that no matter what, if you went with a state or a local county system, it would still be up in the 800 megahertz band. The only thing is the cost would be more because you need the towers and the ancillary equipment, where the state you would use.
Right, that's my
Some of
question.
their existing equipment, obviously.
So you're saying whatever equipment would be compatible with whatever system they decided to go with?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Yes.
but we
Yeah.
may need to be paying for our own system, if I understand.
Well,
it.
this is
Well,
what the
this is just
county is
equipment,
going
this
to
is just
decide.
the
The
it's
physical
not the
equipment,
system.
it's not the overall system itself. The system will be decided obviously by the communities if they want to go with the
That would be
local.
funded differently, probably more looking like an operating expense. This is the
Yeah.
capital.
This-
Which
yeah, this is
will
just
work in your
radios.
system.
Yeah, this is just
not the
radio.
system.
Yeah,
This is
okay.
just the parts of the system.
Just want to make sure we're covered the whole way
Yeah,
around.
it's not buying something that will be obsolete if they go with a different.
But that's also why many communities are faced with, we were all.
I understand
Yeah,
all that. I
yeah.
just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
that halfway down, we're not having to find another 30, because we ended up going a different way.
No.
That's all.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Any further questions on any of the budget or the capital items? No? Tony? No. All right, Len, I think that's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Who we got next, Skip?
I thought maybe that was Skip coming up the stairs.
No, it was somebody maybe, I don't know, they were looking for me. They went up, building inspector?
A lot of this stuff,
There's another meeting going on tonight, right?
Beth, can you do yours in 15 minutes?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Stop putting the pressure on you.
Well, she wanted to be earlier and we got her down for, Skip is down for 6:30, so. Beth, I was going over this. Did you have a capital plan?
I didn't, only because
That's okay. I just wondered if I was missing something. All right, let's go through it. You know the
Yep.
routine on it.
Does everybody has a copy? No? Do you want one?
Buy you the next one? For some reason, I thought I had. Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else need one? No.
So everything's the same except for property inspector services. Last year was a reval year, so the cost was higher because there's more associated with a reval. So this year it went down $4,500.
Okay,
She's done.
That's it.
and that's it. Everything
Okay,
else
everything.
is the same.
Same.
Yep.
And you know, you'll see fire department put in for an increase in wages. Beth knows it.
I know
We
the
take
drill.
what we give them if there's a COLA. So,
And just an update from last year's budget, we did end up putting our property cards online, so that was an added
yes,
service that
yes,
we did. So
I noticed that. That's
Yep.
good. Letters, I got a letter that they're going out to do property
yes,
inspections.
150 letters went out for people who need cyclical inspections. So
Oh, is that what it is?
Yep.
I wondered.
we do 150 a year to be compatible with what the state requires. So.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay, any
Okay.
questions?
No, I like it when it goes down.
You're all
Very
set,
much.
thank you.
Anybody else?
In here from ZBA. Okay, I'll comment on the planning board. I sent it out to you because he got it in this past week. And I don't see any reason to call him in. Went down, I believe. He gave explanations of any changes and overall decrease of $300. It was $800 down on wages because they haven't had a clerk, and up and down on some of their items, but overall net decrease of $300 in their overall budget. Anybody see any reason to have him come in?
No.
Okay, we don't have to then. Takes care of that one. I still have not heard anything from the ZBA. Let's do the minutes while we can.
You say you don't have a
Oops.
ZBA budget?
We have a ZBA budget, but they haven't.
I just want to make
Come
sure,
in,
I have
right?
to beat the budget, I just want to make sure.
Skip, we're all set if you want to start. It's dead. Now there's a budget here tonight. Is that different? Beth, did you get this in the?
That was in the inbox.
Okay, I believe it's the same then as what I sent out to you.
Do you have more than one copy?
Yeah?
I've read it before.
Wait a minute, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. First thing, let's get some business over with. You want to give a commercial for your fire department breakfast?
Sure.
Well, you're on
Fire-
TV, you have a good chance.
Fire department breakfast is this Sunday.
Yeah,
It's all you can eat, pancake, sausage, real maple syrup, and it runs from 7:30 to 10.
and the price?
I think it's $7 for
I think so.
adults. I think we haven't gone up anyway. I think it's $7 for adults, and I think it might be 4 for kids under 12.
And it's a good breakfast always, so.
Good hearty breakfast.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, we go through and look for any
Yeah.
changes.
You want me to run down through?
Yeah,
Okay, basically, this is a budget request form for this upcoming year. Not knowing what the part-time wages are gonna be, I just arbitrarily put in 2.5% for the salaries, which are the chief, the assistant chief, captain, and 3 lieutenants, and the secretary treasurer. And so there'd be an increase from 5842 to 5988, and that's only if the selectmen and the finance committee obviously do that for all the part-time people. The wages is a standard year generally is about 2,800 hours. There's a lot of donated time, obviously the fire department gives, but the actual pay we usually run on a standard year about 2,800 hours. So again, I put in a slight increase on that as well. That also is dependent upon the select board and the finance committee. Operating expense, basically for run down each category under the operating expense, level $500 for telephone, level funded, postage $100 level funded, purchase services $6,000 level funded. I went up a little bit on the FERCOG radio maintenance budget, only because 4455, and it went up an additional $500. Not quite knowing where we're going, where we're headed for our current radio system.
we were just talking with Len about that.
Okay.
Did you go to that meeting?
Yeah, and I know I couldn't make the meeting.
Yeah, okay, he didn't.
But right now, there's one of two things is going to happen. Either the state is going to come forward and put us into the 800 megahertz system, which will provide two-way radio communication between mobiles and portables. It won't do anything for paging, which call firefighters obviously need paging as well as the EMTs. So if we don't go that 800 route, because the Commonwealth hasn't guaranteed us that it's going to happen, and if it is going to happen, when it's going to happen, the bottom line is our communication system, the cost of maintaining this system is basically split up between all the communities, and that's our share. They have not, unfortunately, over the years, put anything into the coffers for capital replacements. And it's getting to the point where the system now is starting to break down. It's 20 years old. Components need to be replaced. So I expect that number, if nothing else happens, but we have to start putting some capital improvements in the system, that number is going to increase, and that's the only reason I increased it. That's my number. It's not anything that's official from FERCOG or anything else. So.
We were talking about what was in today's paper, saying just what you said, go with the state system, or the county communities decide to go on their own and build a system, which is costly.
Well, either way, I think it's going to be costly, because if you go an 800 system, it means basically you have to replace all the radios in the emergency services network, police, fire, EMS.
Well, the police are looking to try to do that already, so.
Well, they are, but right now there's no guarantees that they're going to allow fire and EMS along the way.
System. Oh.
Correct. And until they agree to that or say that it's going to happen, we can't be left out in the lurches either.
No.
So
They're hoping, I think what today's paper said, the county was hoping to get some assistance. Either way, either system.
The radio committee has been trying for over a year to get the Commonwealth to commit through the emergency services EOPS, and they have yet to do. Behind the scenes, they say, "Yeah, we'll work with you," but there's no firm official commitment from them to say they're going to provide access to their 800 system, or if they're going to buy any radios or provide any radios for it. So they haven't, until they do, we really don't know
Yeah.
what's going on.
Yeah, okay.
But our radio system, our current radio system is failing, so we either have to repair it and upgrade
Yeah.
it as we go along, or go to the 800 system. If we have to go to the 800 system, and they don't provide the radios for our equipment and portables for our personnel,
Is that a capital?
it's a capital expense.
130.
150,000, oh, I don't know.
130.
$130,000 just for the fire department.
Yeah, yeah.
So how many radios and pagers and all of that is
It
that?
doesn't include pagers. It only includes mobile radios for the apparatus and the officers.
So we cross
and-
off pagers?
Yeah,
Okay.
30 pages if needed, but that's not included in this 130 because
So it
you
shouldn't be
can't
there.
page on 800 megahertz, which is what the
Okay.
system would be. So the mobiles and portables come up to about $130,000, and that's just the net estimate.
How many is that?
It's 14 mobiles and 14 portables.
14 each.
Yep. Which would be basically replacing what we have now.
And you have a totally different kind of system than the police.
No.
No.
Police, fire, and EMS right now share the county system.
Is this?
If police goes to 800,
Right.
along with, to join with MSP, then
Right.
we will lose the ability to communicate to each other, which is a huge step backwards.
Yeah,
And I don't know what he has put in, I don't know what the police has put in for radios, I have no idea. So this is just.
Well,
an
they put
estimate
in
I
for
got from
2
the
this
vendor.
year.
Huh?
They put in for 2 for 2020 and 10 for
well,
2021.
tell him what they are
Yeah.
then.
And they're 800 megahertz.
Yeah,
What was the cost?
10,000 for 2 and then 10, was it 40,000 for the
4 or
other?
5.
40,000 for the other
Yeah.
10.
2 years
Yeah.
there'll be 4,
So-
this year they're 5.
Yeah. So, until we get a firm commitment, and I don't know if police has gotten a firm commitment from state communications.
no, they
So-
haven't either.
That will link them into MSP, and I don't want to get into their business, but until they get a firm commitment, this is happening,
Yeah,
public commitment, then
no, we haven't, they haven't got any commitment.
they haven't got
either.
any commitment either. And this has been ongoing for almost 2 years now, and we still are sitting there with no commitment.
Huge difference.
Why aren't all the municipalities talking to the state and say, hey, listen,
They
get
are.
off the horse, They
They are.
Yeah.
You're talking to the Executive Office of Public Safety, and that's where the promises, verbal promises are,
And dragging
but
their
no commitment. Well, in all honesty, the fire chiefs associations are now going to the representatives saying, look, we need to either jump on the horse and go, or buy a new horse. One of the two.
Yeah.
And we're putting pressure on the legislators now because we have gotten absolutely no commitment out of emergency.
Are they
Services.
balking at this because they fear they're going to have to pay for it? Is that, or what is the
Good
reason for
question.
balking?
They will not say anything to us.
You'd figure if there was an emergency in any way, shape, or form, they'd want to have everybody being able to communicate with each other.
That's what we would expect. They have made no commitment, Dan. And that's where we're so frustrated not knowing what to do.
And the COG hasn't put much money in to maintaining the system. In
They've
the
only-
last few
they-
years
yeah.
anyway, they've been looking for this upgrade.
Well, they've been looking for an upgrade, and in fact, they put together a proposal for EOPS of what it would take to upgrade the current system, just upgrade it with newer equipment. And, they won't commit to that. They won't commit that, they're saying, well, they are gonna do a study, okay? They're supposed to be coming up in the next 3 or 4 months, from what I understand. They are gonna fund an engineering study
Oh,
as to
good.
what our system is capable of, and what the 800 system is capable of. Because 800 doesn't like hills and
Oh,
valleys. It's
right.
even worse than the 400.
There's something that said in the paper about if they maintain the current system, the towers have to be relocated.
Well, there's some towers that have to be relocated. The system was built on the original county towers, which are
Yeah.
not necessarily in the best location.
Yeah.
So there's some towers that may have to be may have to be relocated, and that's part of that. That's part of that engineering study, is to see where we're at with it. But I don't want to come before the townspeople and say we need $130,000 worth of radio, because I don't know if we do.
Yeah.
And without a commitment, we don't know which way to go. But I did increase my radio maintenance budget
Okay.
a little bit.
Sure.
Hopefully to add the capital. Other than that, everything else is level funded. Propane 180, gasoline 500, diesel fuel 3,500, office supplies 500, other supplies 7,000, memberships 400, and other charges at 500. So my operating budget went from 23,175 to 23,635.
Okay.
Go back just a second.
Sure.
Before I forget. How often do you buy new radios for your women?
We haven't. I've had to replace one because it got damaged. Other than that, we haven't bought radios. We haven't bought two-way radios for several years. It's probably been 8 or 10 years. We have bought pagers. We have bought the pagers, the hip
Right.
pagers, but we haven't bought two-way radios for
So you don't have a regular replacement
No.
cycle? Okay.
We haven't had to, because our radios have, they don't break down.
Okay.
And they're not used every day. Police department uses theirs every day.
Okay.
So the use on our radios is considerably less. Unfortunately, sometimes the environments that we use them in is not very nice.
Okay.
But no, we haven't had a replacement program as far as our system.
Thank you.
And before I get over to the capital, I just wanted to verify, I think you said that emergency management is level funded.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going.
So
Yeah,
we-
that would be level funded.
Yeah. Okay.
Hose and equipment, level funding that at 9,000. Inspection fees, which is almost like a reciprocating account, is level funded at 3,000. Hydrants, which is a fee charged by the Northfield Water Company for maintenance and use of the hydrants, that's level funded at 5,460. Fire station maintenance, I have level funded that as well. 8,500 for electricity, 500 for water, 2,000 for repairs and maintenance, 100 for other purchase services, 8,000 for fuel oil, 700 for supplies, which is level funded at 19,800, and that does both buildings, the fire station up front and the metal building down back.
Okay.
And finally, fire ponds, level funded, maintenance on those, level funded at $3,000. So my total operating budget from this year was 118,186, proposed to go to 120,014.
Right, okay. And we won't talk about a water system north of here, will we?
Not yet.
Okay.
So,
Okay, any questions by anybody on the operating budget? Okay,
all right.
then on the capital, your
Yeah.
first priority this year would be scuba tanks.
Yeah, SCBA tanks. We have, that's a self-contained breathing apparatus. They're tanks that the firefighters put on with their Scott air packs or whatever you want to, air breathing devices.
Yeah, I shouldn't
bought-
say what I did because
How
some
many of them are you talking about for
misunderstand
40
the
grand?
word, don't they?
Oh,
Sorry.
SC, yeah, it almost looks like scuba, but it's not.
Yeah.
How many are you talking about?
We're talking, I think it's 24 or 26 tanks. What they are is they're carbon fiber wrapped aluminum cylinders, and they have a 15-year life expectancy. And I have those 24 that are coming up due for replacement in 2020. I'm looking at some options though. If I buy a tank from the original manufacturer, they're about almost $1,200, $1,300 a piece. If I get an OEM tank, which is not by the regular manufacturer, but it is DOT certified, which pressure cylinders are certified and come under the regulations of the Department of Transportation because they go over the road. I can get a generic tank, if you want to call it, meets all the criteria for about $650. I just found out that the DOT, if you take your 15-year carbon wrap fiber cylinders, and you can now get them recertified for another 15 years, which is like $350 a tank. But you have to go through another, that's if you get them recertified at 15 years, which is 2020. But you also have to do another, it's not a hydrostatic test, it's an ultrasonic test at year 5 and year 10. So that would give you a
We're looking
15-year
for cracks
tank.
and defects.
Well, it's to make sure that there's nothing that's gone wrong with them. We maintain our tanks very strictly. We hydrostatically test them when they're required, which is every 5 years. We make sure that if anything looks damaged or whatever, that it's brought to the attention. So we've done a very good job of maintaining our tanks as we go. But because we bought a slew of them all at one point through a appropriation, we now have quite a few of them that are coming up for replacement, 15-year replacement.
And what was the cost you said for this generic?
Generic is about $650.
$650. And then what would that, $650. Then renew 5 and 10 years
That's about $350.
each time?
No,
Total.
$350 to get it recertified, and then it's probably about another $50 every 5 years after that.
Oh,
to
okay.
get
Times the
30.
number of,
So
Times the number of
350
tanks,
plus
yeah,
150.
exactly.
you're the one that has to deal with it.
Yeah.
What do you feel comfortable
$50.
with? What is your comfort
I
level?
really, in all honesty, the manufacturers of the breathing apparatus, and there's 4 major manufacturers. There's Scott, MSA, Interspiro, and Survivor. We happen to have Interspiro, which is a higher grade system. You're able to buddy breathe from a hose connection to 2 firefighters inside. If you have a firefighter down, you can take a pack, run it in, and if he's trapped, you can run it in and connect him into a what we call a RIT tank. It's a more sophisticated system. It's been used out in the European countries for years, and one of the reasons we bought into this probably 25, 30 years ago is because it met higher standards than Scott and MSA. And over the years, Scott and MSA you've had to take your packs in and get them refurbished or regulators replaced, and we've never had to do that with Interspiro because they are higher.
So it sounds like you're leaning to having those recertified.
I'm the only thing the manufacturers are saying is, well, if you buy a generic tank or you have your tanks recertified, we're not going to warranty them. But that's fine as long as the recertification company, who has to meet strict standards with DOT, recertifies them and warranties them for an additional 10 years. I can't see buying a high-priced tank just because it says the brand name of the air pack manufacturer on them.
Sure, and again,
I'm a taxpayer too.
it goes
Yeah.
back to what I asked you about comfort level. It sounds like the ones you have now have more. You can use them a little bit better. You like the fact you can plug in and
It's a
let it
great
breathe out.
it's a great system.
Yeah.
And they when a firefighter goes into a hazardous atmosphere, whether it's smoke or CO or whatever, the systems that we have, they have a positive pressure, so there can be absolutely no leakage around the mask. If there is any leakage, it's air pushing out, not able to pull contaminants in. So, the air packs are a vital part of firefighting. And if I thought for a minute that buying either generic tanks or recertifying the tanks we have was a hazard, I would be here dead set against it. So the manufacturers are trying to say, well, we won't warranty them as part of our breathing system. That's fine. They've only had two carbon fiber tank failures. One was run over by a fire truck, and the other one was sliced by a piece of steel. Those are the only 2 carbon fiber tanks. The Navy has done 7 years of testing on this recertification process. And as long as DOT has got a special permit out there, and the company that does it has been specifically qualified to do it, personally, I don't have a problem with that.
It's not that much difference in the cost when you
Yeah.
add it all up.
Yeah.
Now, would you
So,
consider,
testing.
I mean, if you're going to use these, recertify them, and you said
Yeah.
you had, a bunch of them were going to have to be done all at once,
Yeah.
would you consider probably looking at replacing, not all of them, but a few a year, so you wouldn't run into having,
I mean,
having.
we could definitely do that. We could replace some and then recertify some, so so they don't all
Exactly.
come due at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
That
that's
would-
the-
in
that's
the
a
long run,
definite
that'd save you some
possibility.
money, and
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
having to come with a lump sum all at once.
Mhm. Yeah,
But the 40,000 that you put in
yeah.
takes care of the 24 that
Yeah,
you've got
yeah,
now
Yes, yeah.
with the recertification process. Okay.
The radios, pagers, and portables, that was what we discussed on the radios, but
Yeah.
if we go the 800, or are forced to go the 800, depending on how it works out.
Yeah.
The new, chassis for the rescue truck, that's carried over from a couple years ago. We talked about doing a chassis for just a chassis for the rescue truck. Obviously, there'd be some modifications to it. That's not etched in stone. That would have to be 2021. It's been 2021 for the last 4 or 5 years as far as projected capital requests, but that could be pushed off a year if it had to be. The fire station site design, I take responsibility for not pushing this along. We've got to get together now that spring is around the corner so we can do the drilling, the boring and testing down back. But once that's done, and we already have funds for that, the next step would be in the design step. So that's what that would be.
That's what the 50,000 would be?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I hear you're having some issues though with the existing fire station. Some of the ceiling is coming down,
The flooring, yeah.
flooring. Have you?
That's-
Has
That
an-
concerns
yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Has an engineer been?
No, I'm going to get a hold of Jim Hawkins and have
Yeah.
him bring him in and have him take a look at it. I'm not so worried, well, I am worried about the pieces of concrete that are falling. And it's because there's this joint in the center of the station that probably 25 years ago, we were told by an engineer to cut that joint.
For expansion?
Yeah, it's an expansion joint. To cut that joint because water drips down into it, to cut that joint and epoxy it, which we did. We had that done. But it didn't seem to stop the water leakage. And my concern is not so much the concrete, the pieces that are falling, is the deteriorated pieces of re-rod that are in that area
That are rusting?
that are
Deteriorating?
deteriorating substantially. So, I'm gonna.
So you'd have to
I'm gonna
probably
bring-
do a little bit of a boring there. You're gonna have to get more involved than just
Well,
that.
I think what they needed, I want Jim Hawkins to come in and take a look at it. We've tried to lighten the load as best we can on the upper floor. But along that spot and in a couple of other areas, there's deterioration that's making it.
Are you
very
doing anything
prevalent.
to protect the equipment that's down below if catch some of this concrete falling through? I mean,
Really isn't much we can do.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
All
the
right.
big trucks, bigger trucks, the heavier equipment is downstairs. Has been downstairs for quite a while now. So.
but they're the ones that are getting stuff dropped on them, right?
Huh? Yeah.
And
Is it anywhere where any of this can be dropping on an individual or anything, and then we have a
Pretty
liability?
not so much. And as far as that's concerned, it's basically right over the center engine is where it has been happening. So.
Okay.
So yeah, as far as a piece of concrete, and I think the biggest piece that we've had drop out is about probably 12 inches in diameter, maybe 3 or 4 inches wide.
How thick?
More of them are small pieces, but
So the inventory that you have down there,
Yeah.
estimate, what is the value of the inventory you have down there that the ceiling could come down on? Possibly, right?
you have 2 pumper tankers.
Okay, so that's what, half a million
$500,000
dollars a piece?
$500,000 each. Yeah.
Okay.
And you have the rescue truck.
Okay.
That is, we bought it used, but the value, if we go to replace that entire truck, you'd be probably $300,000.
Okay, so you got $1.3 million,
Yeah.
say $1 million,
Mhm.
million and a half, say, because you have other stuff down there that's in jeopardy right now. You're saying, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
What we're looking at, Skip,
Yeah.
is should we be putting something into the budget this year to take care of some repairs, and you're saying you're gonna have Jim Hawkins.
I'm gonna have Jim Hawkins come in and take a look at it, and I want to get his take on it,
Yes,
and also maybe see which, what avenue we should be headed.
that's a good idea, I think, yeah. Can that be done soon so that we can figure
Yeah, I
in
mean, I can
some-
get hold of Jim, whether we end up with a whichever avenue we end up going, would be the next step.
Maybe a question is, because it's going to take a while for any kind of a building to be put up, that you may have to reallocate funds from, the site design to shore up what we have.
Yeah, that very well could
So that's
happen.
why I think that to get this done as quickly as possible, so that we could figure out what would be needed by town meeting.
Yeah.
I'd like to be able to do both, not hold up the site design, but still repair that so we're not having more damage.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, pieces aren't falling daily, but we've got a collection of pieces now.
It's getting
In
to
fact-
be.
What's the date that you
necessity.
would have to have this info in from Jim and him?
well,
Articles are what?
one of your articles do,
1st of April.
Andrea.
1st of April, isn't it?
No, before that.
I think it's March 25th.
Yeah, the last week in March.
Okay.
The
'Cause
select board meeting, the last week of March, which I think 25th sounds right.
That's what the cutoff is, March,
So 5
Monday, March 25th.
March 25th, it's cut off for warrant articles.
But we would
25th.
need an idea sooner, so
Sooner,
we know
right.
whether
Well,
what
we
we're
gotta-
putting in where.
Well, the select board needs to get the articles, and then we would be talking about them.
But if we're going to be doing any of our budget, knowing how much money we have, the sooner we have it, the better off we are than March 25th. Yeah,
Yeah, except that until you get all of it, you can't really tell
right,
much
that's what I'm
about it.
saying. We need it early.
So Andrea, Hawkins is the building inspector.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, yeah, he's
Yeah.
the building
I know
inspector.
Jim.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I know Jim for
I don't know,
Yeah.
what day is he still in,
He's here
Thursday
tonight.
nights?
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
He's
Well,
here.
someone was down there earlier, I don't know
Yeah.
who it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's there until 7.
11 more minutes.
You mean-
and I
right
think-
down the hall?
Run.
Yeah, right around
Yeah.
the corner.
Right around the corner.
There you go.
And we still have the appropriation, $350,000 to replace the ladder. That is still there. We are still,
yes.
that was appropriated
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
year. We are still,
Yes.
we are
Yeah.
still actively looking. We missed one truck by about 4 days.
Yeah, you're looking
Would've-
for a
would've-
second
they would've-
used vehicle.
Oh, yeah, it'd be a used vehicle.
Yeah,
And like I said, we missed one by 4 days. Somebody else scooped it up before we did, but we're
the
actively
good ones go
looking.
fast, don't they?
Well, yeah, I mean, the one we missed by 4 days, and it was within our price range, only had 20,000 miles on it. It was only 12 years old. It was actually run by a volunteer department, so there was replacing it. So it was in extremely good shape, and
Yeah.
it didn't stay on the market very long.
No,
But we're still actively looking. The one thing is, we're not in a position where we absolutely have to do something right now, but the ladder truck we have is now 40 years old. It's still working well. We used it here this last month at a house fire out on Turnpike Road, and it worked very well. So we're not in a dire have to do something
Right.
and have to don't take this the wrong way, lower our standards and get something that we don't
And
think
you have the
will
money
fit.
there to do it, you don't
Money's
have
there
to
to
wait
do
for
it.
it, so you
Right.
got.
that's the thing of it.
That's the whole key to that. So
That
we
puts
are
you in a
active-
better position when
Much
something.
better position, yeah. So I just want to let finance committee know that money has not been spent.
Oh, no.
The check has
We
not
didn't,
been
and
written.
we didn't see a truck pull in. So.
Yeah, no.
All right, anybody else have any questions on anything? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Go see Jim.
See ya.
I'll run out and see Jim.
All right, Andrea, if you want to come up. And I think you handed out packets here
Sorry we
earlier.
couldn't get it to you sooner. A lot of moving pieces, some of which are assessments from other places and didn't
Yes.
have them all at the,
Yeah,
I also have in there for you the accountant, I worked with Phil, and the treasurer collector's budget, so we
Oh,
were
good.
putting
Okay.
together a lot of options.
You mean you have a budget this year?
You do?
We've
She
got a
said you
budget.
do. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yep.
All right. Very good.
So we can kind of go through that.
Sure.
The first one's the accountant's budget. You know, I talked to Phil today and we worked through it. I mean, the only real change in Phil's budget is the change in the salary, you know, from one person to another.
Okay, yeah.
And
So this
this is pretty
is
much
the current salary.
correct.
Okay, that's it. Right. The way we do, this is fine. The way we do it is when we're doing our figuring and so
Right.
forth, we decide on
There's no COLA.
what we recommend, and that would be added to it, so.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
So that's pretty much what his budget is. I recommended he kind of combined some of these little tiny items into the one expense line item. Might talk a little bit later about one of the things we're going to do, maybe with some software. Phil and treasurer collector and myself, and we're going to kind of look at the chart of accounts. There's a lot of, if you've noticed on your paperwork, empty accounts, and so one of the projects we're going to undertake is actually cleaning up the chart of accounts a little bit and getting some of these off the books that are not in use or were used in the past, or for line items that haven't been used in years, and try to tighten it up to get that a little bit more user-friendly.
Sure.
So,
Because some of those titles stay there for years, and
right, and we've had some changes in procedure whereupon the departments are now doing their own account reporting. They have their own bill schedule and they have to put their own accounts on it. So we want to tighten up their chart of accounts for them so that it's easier for the departments to be choosing among their own accounts, so that things are going into the right accounts, so that budget tracking is easier for the department and the town.
okay,
So we're already started that process.
sure.
So does this need a new system?
Well, we can get into what the proposal is when you get to capital requests.
Okay, so you're gonna have one capital
Yeah,
request, not
it's
each.
tied
Okay.
into the treasurer too, so
Okay.
we can
All right.
get to that when we talk her budget too. Yeah, I kind of put them all together sort of in a town hall capital
Okay.
request, because we've all been
Sounds
kind of working together on it. So then you have the treasurer and collector's budgets. Again,
Excuse me. The financial assistant's gone up.
oh,
a
I
little.
did a little bit up. If we're going to go through a lot of work, so I figured, I don't know what that will be in terms of what, you know, the pay rate will be on that, but it's a few extra hours to help Phil, because if we're going to spend some extra time on doing accounts over, I'm going to pull him away, and she's very helpful in doing things like entering things for the warrant, and it's fine. So she's very good on, she could do a little bit more data entry when we're kind of working on trying to do the charts of accounts. I've thrown a lot of things on Phil, he's new.
Are there still the two financial assistants?
No, there's just one.
Just one.
Carolyn?
She was in December for the treasurer transition,
Yeah.
but I've seen her
Oh,
since then.
oh, okay.
She comes in
Okay.
sporadically.
So,
Okay.
right, so that was just to give him a few more hours maybe to help while
Sure.
while we're working on some of the,
So theoretically, it might go down, back down next year.
right, it could.
Right,
And I don't know
okay.
what this means in
Yep.
terms of actual hours, because we don't have a COLA in there.
Yep.
So if that rate goes up a slight bit with a COLA, or it doesn't, maybe just gives him a
Yeah.
few extra hours. That way I can, you know, have him help me work on those projects because we have our financial team. We have our second meeting this week, so we keep putting in little projects and trying to give them some. I think in the long run, what it's going to do is make it a lot easier and give us all a lot more capability and time. But right now, it's going to take a lot of upfront work
To get there.
to get
Yep.
there.
So it's Tracy then, that's fine.
Correct, Tracy.
Okay, yeah,
So then you've got the treasurer's budget next. I
okay.
think she pretty much just level funded her budget. She went up slightly, a little bit for postage, I think, and a little bit on office supplies. But
Meeting and seminars.
but I'm sorry.
She went up meeting and seminars too, right?
Yes, I think because she's not 100% certified, so she's going to attend. She's taken the first year maybe first or second in treasurer and one in tax collector. So she's going to get she's working on her certifications.
Okay.
So that would be the biggest change for her, and a little bit up in those things. So, but otherwise, pretty much the same. And that is her current salary rate. So that's why it's down a little bit.
Okay.
So,
All right.
and then you'll see the same thing on the collector. She split the salary 50-50, so that's why it's the exact same amount. Again, she has a little bit up for her meetings and seminars. Postage is a huge part of her budget, so she's factoring in the postage increase.
Now, she got nothing in here for data processing.
Data processing, we're not quite sure what that means. It turns out that when we did a fair bit of research, and learning the budget was a fair bit of research, the software and computer maintenance pieces are actually in a line item that you're going to see in the budget that I put together for accounting and collector and treasurer. All that software is actually in a line item under computing in the next budgets.
Okay.
That's where we found it. We ran the expenditure reports, and that's where all of that is.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on that one? Okay.
So there's the big one.
Yeah.
This is mine. You'll see. The only thing I did add is because it's apparent. It was made apparent because I think Bernie already knew that there was a step increase on Sandra. So that's in there. It's not a COLA. So since we knew about it, we just put it there for you to see. Most of the budget is the same. I'll tell you where I went up. We went up a little bit on the postage again. Oh no, it wasn't postage.
Yeah.
The one below it. Other purchased services under the select board. There's a couple of things that we have used consultants for. And again, those go up. Those are assessments usually. Other supplies, mileage. I moved some of these around.
No more law books.
No more law books, right. You can see where I've crossed off
wanna
some of
see
the
'em?
lines that
Pretty
really
much.
do need to be.
Oh, I know where they are, but
Really
it's
do
nice
need
to
to
see
be
it's crossed.
removed. So most of this was trying to move it around to balance things a better, like a little bit down in advertising, a little bit up here. I'm trying to get it to reflect more accurately where the expenditures are actually happening. There's no, it went up about $500 in terms of the budget. But not really, but mostly we're trying to get the line items to go where the expenditures are going, so that when we go into the new accounting and the new systems, that we're actually tracking properly.
I think the last of the law books are in a bookcase out here. Nobody
There's some there and
wanted-
there.
It's all, you wouldn't use them anyway, they're not updated, you've gotta go online.
No.
They used to send those little supplements and you had to put them in the back of the
Yes,
book.
oh yeah.
Everybody's,
A lot of work.
we're done with that. So this is actually for me. And I threw a little bit extra in supplies. There's probably a couple things I'm gonna get for my office. A little bit more in mileage, since I do chair a committee that takes me quarterly around the state. I do have to travel a little bit. And I just combined the membership lines, hopefully to one. I don't know why there's
That's
two there.
STAM you're talking about, small town
Yes,
administrators.
small town administrators. I'm the chair, so we meet quarterly
Yeah.
and have an annual meeting, so I do travel. Plus I go to a lot of other things. I don't always do mileage. It's only when I go a great distance. If I have to go to the Greenfield for something, I don't track that stuff. But if I go to something further away, that's the only time.
Okay.
I combined those. I put the membership line down below just because there's two lines, and I'm not sure why. Looks like they put a budget in one year and tracked it, and then the next year put the budget in the other, and I'm not. So hopefully those will become one line item.
Okay.
Level funded legal. Oh, sorry. Did you have a question?
No, they're exact same numbers, so basically there's no reason to have them two different numbers.
Yeah, I think I
Almost,
only
yeah.
rounded
22.
the numbers as opposed to get to 34 as opposed to 3348.
Yep.
Legal is the same. This is where we found the computer was all going in, between the different softwares, between the the accountant, the treasurer, the collector, are all in this computer supply and service.
Yes.
So I spent some time today and last few days trying to track down who we pay, when we pay them, what vendor, what service. to try and straighten this budget out a little bit. You can see last year they just threw in one number for the whole thing, and I'm trying to break it out a little bit and try to get it correct. I am looking for a piece of an increase here, and this is where we can talk about what we're proposing for the changes. I think based on what we've talked to with the vendors, we can do this without a capital request. They did offer us, I'll put it this way, she needs a new tax collection software. That's the first big one. The system that she's using, the old system, Point, is not a Windows-based system. It's quite old, and it has we have some security fears with it. Actually, in the way the vendor gets into the system, they don't support certain updated security protocols, and that's very dangerous for the town. So we really need to update that system to a Windows-based system, which is also more secure. So she looked into several, she's worked with one, got some quotes from a vendor. It's not cheap to change, but they're willing to give us 8 years with 0% interest to finance it plus the annual cost. So it isn't like all up front. So we figured, well, we're gonna take the 8 years because there's no interest in it. So it made sense to just push that out. So basically it's our annual cost plus the cost of the upgrade over 8
So
years.
you'll be putting that into this?
Correct. So that's why you see some different changes in this line item here. I put 20,000 where you see 8 or 9, but that's Vadar, as you're seeing. And then the other one is Harper's. That's our payroll service. That one is almost a wash. Turns out that's not going to be much difference. But what you have to understand is we had a combined system with the accountant and the treasurer, which was BMSI. And we're going to actually, Vadar is going to do both our accounting and our tax collecting, and Harper's will do the payroll. So we're splitting it slightly differently, but with still two vendors. So, but it's going to be a good system that the accountant and the treasurer collector, the tax collector treasurer collector can use for her accounting, for his accounting, and for her treasurer piece, her tax collection piece, and then we'll have a new payroll service. So that piece will come off BMSI and be a payroll piece, and then the tax collection and accounting software will all be Vadar. So those will be two new vendors, both very modern, very up to date, very Windows based. We can actually do Vadar cloud based. They do so we really need to take that step up in terms of the technology.
So this is all going to be in place, July 1st?
Right. No, the only thing that's going to change is Harper's. We actually want to bring the payroll service in April 1st. They're going to charge $250 to convert us. So we figured we could probably find that. And there'll be a little bit of money per payroll. We think it'll probably be about $1,100 this year. We usually pay the other service a little bit, so we're not sure how it'll wash out. If it ends up a tiny bit short, we may have to come for a small request, but we're hoping that it'll be pretty close in the end for the payroll service. But we'd like to get that started at April 1st because that's a quarterly payroll.
This means that you'd be outsourcing the payrolls then?
No, well, when you say outsourcing, all the entry is still done here. People still turn in their time sheets. All of it is entered. It will be done by the treasurer, not the accountant. Okay. And then what they're doing is they take the payroll, they do all of the computing, so she'll get a report back. They will then compute all the taxes. They make all the tax payments out of her payroll account. They will do all the automatic direct deposits out of our payroll account. So, and then we will print the pay stubs. People will still get a stub that will say how much they made. It will have their track. We're going to add their tracking their leave balances, which is not currently done. So you will know every pay stub, what your sick time, vacation time, all that.
This is what you want to start April 1st then?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So all the printing will be done in-house.
Right. She'll still print the receipts for which we currently do, for your pay stub. But they would take over once she puts it all in, and it has to balance. She gets a report back.
Yep.
And then they handle all the financial piece, and then come tax time, they work W-2 time, all that is done through the payroll service.
So is it still going to be weekly, or are you going to go to a bi-weekly system?
Really would like to go bi-weekly. I think the aim is to go bi-weekly. I mean, it just makes that much more sense.
It's much less expensive.
It is.
It is, because you do it per
Lot
payroll,
less, yeah.
and it's as much time to go bi-weekly for her as it is weekly. It's the same people punching in a number. So if you add weekly, you're also then doubling the workload on the person, because every week she's doing
Same
payroll, and it's the same amount of time, but now it'll be every week instead of bi-weekly, so it's twice the time.
How are you doing on direct deposit?
She had over 50% of everybody in town has already switched. So
Good.
just through voluntary.
Good.
And more people, she put it in the pay stubs, and more of them came in. So we've had quite a good response.
Yes, I'd say so then.
Quite a good response within just a few weeks. And so far, I don't think anybody's had any issues.
Mhm.
Tracking down where their pay stub is another thing. Because she's been putting them in the box instead of sometimes mailing. So, but that's nothing to do with the money. Everyone's
Yeah.
getting paid, and everyone's getting. So,
Okay,
so that looks a little different. The other thing that's a little bit higher, see, I situated them a little bit different, is where I wrote the word guardian. That is currently our technology and phone services system. I have in the capital plan to actually do some changes to the technology. I'm a little concerned with the system we have. It's having come from a system which was a little bit easier to use. I find Guardian a little bit cumbersome, but more importantly, they don't do off-site backup apparently, which is a real problem for me, because if anything were to happen to this building, it's all in the building. So we don't have anything being backed up out off-site, which could be a real problem. Plus, everybody's still, it seems to me the kind of the most expensive way to do it. We have several servers. There's a domain server and various servers that are doing email and all that, which is fine. We still have that. But we don't have like a terminal server that takes everything above. And so everybody has a desktop computer. So we're replacing full computer systems and paying for a fully managed server system. And I'm thinking, if we're paying for a fully managed server system, we should be using thin clients, which are a quarter of the cost, a fifth, 20% of the cost of a full desktop computer, because the thin client is basically just a transition to get you to the server.
Right.
But the way we have it now is we have the server, and then everybody has a full computer. So every time you replace those computers, and there's at least 2 or 3 that you've been asked to replace this year, at $2,000 a piece.
Yeah.
And I had them print me everybody's computers. None have been replaced in the last year or two.
Now
You need to be
you've got a
replacing
computer,
4
right?
a year.
Yeah, mine is 4 or 5 years old right now.
That starts to be about the end.
Yeah.
And we've got older ones.
I know you do. Yeah.
So at looking at the system where there's a list of 16 computers or 18 computers, and you're not replacing 4 a year, which you haven't done in 2 years, you're already 8 behind. That's $16,000 if you're technically replacing them.
So what are the, what you call
The
them?
thin clients?
Yeah.
Well, what I'm proposing is, we have a contract through January, is that come November, December, we construct a new system and we bid it. And I think there should be a big change in how this system is done. The other thing to let you know is they're still proposing a large scale change. They didn't upgrade to Windows 10 when it was free. So now everybody has to be upgraded to Windows 10.
So if you're thinking about upgrading, and I'm thinking my computer's at its, should I wait then until we?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it depends. If we
Well,
get
unless it dies or
this
something.
capital request, I would not buy any new computers. I
Right.
would say it's all going to transition
To that.
in January. And we would go, and everybody
Full
would
blast.
get, right. And then we would be doing what is the modern approach, which is getting a license for everybody on 365, 360, and Windows
Right.
10. We don't have to upgrade your operating system and then your software. It'll all be licensed, and then all those will happen automatically through the vendor.
One-shot deal.
Right.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's worth.
So I think
Definitely
that
worth
it's
it.
the next evolution. I think what was put in place was a big step for the time.
It
When
was.
it was done, it was the cutting edge. It was the thing to do. The problem is that cutting edge has moved. And it seems to me, but this is a good time to do it because you're right now, I mean, it's actually the opportune time, you're right now on the edge of replacing all these computers. If you were halfway through a replacement plan, you'd be like, oh, now what is going to happen to all those?
Let's
But
not do it then.
now seems the time, if you're really facing upgrading all these systems and
Yeah.
starting to replace 3-4 computers a year, it makes sense to just do it and be done with it. I also think that the cost that we're paying per year is pretty high. And I think we could get that cost or maybe even better management with a new company. So I've been in talks with someone that I know something about. They've given me a lot of information, pages of what they think could really be changed. But they're not going to go that far. I mean, we have to put it out to bid. So, I'm not asking anybody to go spend too much time on this because they would only be one of many people. And that would allow Guardian, if they wanted to do an upgrade, to bid. It will put that out there for any and all people to do that. And I have some pretty good specs now on what we'd be looking for, and then we could compare that pricing. But I think this is the time to do that, especially when we're talking about changes in software.
So you're looking for the money in the budget that we're putting together now?
I've got a capital request in, you'll
Right,
see.
okay, we
So
just need to
it
get
just
there.
makes sense, rather than to start putting in these computers at $2,000. I think there's at least 3 I've noticed in the budget.
There was, ZBA
Oh.
had.
At least one, and I know that Dan had one. I thought there might be one other, or at least there should be one other, because there's one
That's
that,
not
that's
bad.
like a
was the
2004,
only- yeah.
2014 computer, and I was like, oh,
Oh.
that's kind of old.
That's not bad price.
By the way,
So that's why that number looks different, because
Okay.
I think we need to do some work in that department. In terms of our annual costs for Vadar and Harper's, it really will only be going up about $2,000 a year. And that's for a period of time while we're paying off, and then actually, Vadar should come down a little in theory. So it's not
so-
much of a change from what we're paying now.
Okay, you want to leave the computer supply and service account as the way it's is.
Right, so that's a bit of an increase, and I understand.
Yes.
So I just wanted to explain that there's a plan to do
Okay.
that. And I'm just trying to be very cautious there, because I don't want to get halfway into a process and then we
Right.
find out we didn't appropriate enough money to get through the process. It may very well be that that's a little high on the high end, and we'll learn that very quickly within a year, and we can adjust that with real, actual numbers.
Sure. Okay,
Copy machine is level funded. The wage accounts are level funded. Custodian and maintenance, I think I went up a little bit on electricity, since we spent more last year than was in the budget. Telephone, I'm trying to break these out into the right accounts, because they seem to be spending out of that account but not budgeting into it, so that didn't make any sense to me. But I noticed that we spent a little bit less in maintenance and repair than we were budgeting, so I dropped that a little bit.
On this,
So I was trying to get the budgets in line with where we seem to be spending, to get it in the right accounts.
this telephones under town hall maintenance, there was nothing in it last year. Wait a
Right.
minute, 822.
But those are 2 cell phones for your custodian and they're paying their cell phone bills out of a line item that they're just not budgeting. So basically what's happening is the bottom line has enough money in it that it's picking it up. I'm just trying
Yes,
to get them in the
yes,
right
I
account.
realize
So
that.
so the
There's
phones
no
are,
change in this whole account total, if you go to the next page. I'm just trying to get them into the
accurate, so we know
right,
where the money goes.
into better accounts.
We had talked during the year here about cell phones and who has them and why and so forth.
You have a lot of cell phones.
Is there a way to trim that list down and get better deals? Because some are working with this company, others work with this company, and if you look at what they pay, it's so very different.
Yeah, and it is very
Client.
different, and it's different based on usage too. Some of them are use their cell phones way more heavily than others, and that's a function of it. These two cell phones I actually found were pretty inexpensive. They were like $50 a month. for
Why?
each. That was pretty cheap.
Which two?
50?
It said
It's
the
so-
The custodian and your maintenance person both have
Okay,
cell phones.
yeah.
$50 a month?
That's pretty much a basic cell phone. That's pretty low. Pretty much.
They can't be combined with another plan of another department?
I haven't tackled the cell phone thing, but they're all
Okay.
over in different departments. And so what you're going to have to do, and this becomes an issue too when we start to look at things, is you trying to centralize budgets. Like you could say a cell phone budget, put it somewhere and pull it out of other people's, and you might be able to do that. But while you have it in individual budgets, it's very hard to
Right.
manage that.
Okay, so that's
Because
on your
otherwise you
list.
get one bill and
Down
now
the
one
road.
bill has to get paid by 6 different departments. And that's very problematic, we know, because we share things like a Staples account. Tracking down who bought what out of it, you know what Bill's over there going, yes, I know, can become very problematic. So if you want to do it, the best way to do that is to go to one combined budget and pay a whole thing, not to try and split the budget then among departments.
But that's on your list for later on.
I think that many things of looking
Okay.
at
Consolidation.
consolidation is on the list
Yeah.
over the next year.
Okay.
Elevators, the same. I don't know where it's going, but it doesn't seem to have paid a lot. But this was October, so not all the budgets are. I'm assuming that's on a contract. Wasn't bid through the FERCog, but then there's some talk about a fire alarm system as well. But I think that's just the elevator. Town reports I left, town clock.
You know where that is, right?
The clock,
Yeah.
it's in another building.
Huh?
It's in another building. It's
Yeah,
in the,
across the street.
yeah,
Now you look at it out your windows across the
yeah.
street.
I see it every day,
There
But
you
that-
go.
all day.
That's history, that one, yeah.
So the inspections, for whatever reason, are in this budget, so I level funded them. I didn't touch the school maintenance and repair and supplies. That seems to be sort of a negotiated thing. I think they do some carpeting each year, and so they have a
Yeah.
certain.
Oh.
Are
the
we going to
tuition-
get any kind of report from them? on what
Yes,
needs?
yeah, and I've met with her a couple times.
Okay.
So yes, they have been working on it, and they're going to come in and talk to you about their capital requests too.
Okay.
In fact, I have a meeting with her at 8:30 tomorrow morning. We do have a confirmed student, at least one student who has applied.
That's gonna be the Smith Voc, isn't it?
Right, we don't hear till May whether they're accepted, so we have to fund it because
Yeah.
if they're accepted, and then I'll have to reach out for transportation at that point. So, and try to negotiate and try to get that set up. Streetlights looked fine, last year was fine. I lowered the veterans benefits only because you're not paying anywhere near the amount that you budgeted. It's the items,
It's a
the line
gamble.
item is difficult, but I just can't see, if that was a true number last year, I cannot see that many veterans coming in to go from 10,000 to
We
40,000.
did at one time have quite a few.
Right, and that happens. It does
Yeah.
fluctuate, but right now that would be a lot of people showing up in one year. So you don't want to ever cut it too much because they show up mid-year. They show it. You have no control
Right.
over that, but I do think that it's probably safe to
Okay,
change that a little bit. Parks, historical markers, all that's the same. I got the Regional Council of Governments assessment today. It's down a little. The Veterans Assessment, I got that as well today.
Oh,
So those
I've
are
got
real
it.
numbers.
in the mail here from the COG, so that must be it too. You-
I don't know. I went on their website,
Oh,
downloaded their whole
well, I
thing.
thought this was COG,
So,
yeah. So it's, okay, so you've got this is
those are
the-
actual.
Yeah,
Those are actual FY20
Okay.
numbers.
okay, that's
There's your
good.
retirement assessment. That's down. Actual number.
Now, one of these, let's see, the best.
I went up a little bit on workers' comp because that's a function of your payroll. So
Right.
if your COLA and things go up, your workers' comp can go up. So just a little bit.
Can you back up a minute to
Sure.
county retirement?
Yes,
They still offer
that's
a
the discount.
discount if you pay
Yes.
all at once.
That's the lower rate.
that's what we hope to do then.
Yes, we always put that in by
Yes.
July, first
Yeah.
thing. First
Okay.
warrant one, pay the
Good,
retirement. So the workers' comp a little bit, because I said it's based on payroll, so your
Yes.
payroll goes up, usually your workers' comp goes up a little bit.
Do we have any years out for claims where your percentage goes up X years?
Workers' comp is an interesting thing, because workers' comp doesn't run on the fiscal year, it runs
Right.
on the calendar year. So whatever rate you have today in your budgeting doesn't change July 1, it changes December 1. So you kind of have to guess. If you use today's number, your number can go up or down, because it changes January 1st. So the claims history, I have some claims history, but I don't see anything huge in there that should lead to a spike either way.
Or a decrease? Okay.
It's-
Okay,
it's-
yep,
It's hard to say, their formula isn't straightforward, so.
yep, okay.
It's an audit, a workers' comp is an audit that's done
Right.
every year, so.
Yep.
Unemployment, left the same, that's based on payroll. Health insurance,
now is this a figure that we have now from Hampshire COG?
the health insurance, we have the rates, yes.
Okay,
Rates are level. There's
okay,
no increase in the health insurance rate.
okay, so it's not an estimate, it's an actual figure, we know.
We get a rate, that's all we get. So then
Yeah.
we sit with our who's in what
Yes,
category, and
yeah.
we compute it. Not exactly sure. The treasurer and I went round and round on this several days in a row, because we just were concerned that we were cutting this line item.
Yeah,
No matter what we did, we could not come up with anything near $200,000. I don't know where that budget came from, but with the current payroll, with the current people on insurance, we did
Well-
everything, and
Well, it's
and
huge
even that's
difference
got an extra
between
person in
last
it,
year
just in
that's
case.
it. We always put in
Yep.
for an extra one.
It's in there,
At the highest, I guess,
it's in there.
family rate, just in case, because it isn't likely to happen, but you
Right.
also get somebody that brings a spouse on.
Things can always change, right?
Yeah, okay.
So even that is very conservative.
Okay,
So, life insurance, the rate hasn't really changed. Medicare up a little bit, because that's a matching payroll tax. In case your payroll goes up, you have to
Right.
match that. And I went up a little bit on other insurance, because that usually goes up between your police and fire, which is your VFIS. I got those rates, they're up a slight bit, and all our property tax was up. I think they went up 2.some% this year, so just
Okay.
raised that one there. Overall, the budget, as presented before COLA, is down about $24,000, so COLA should fit in there hopefully and make us fairly level funded in these budgets anyway,
okay.
I hope. So for capital, I have a couple of things I've been talking about for a while. The audit, and behind my capital request, I think I've given you some of the letters of support here. The capital audit, and I put on there the next two. He gave us a 3-year quote, $16,000 a year for each year for the next 3 years. And we'll
Now,
do an
what-
audit every year.
We raised money at the last annual town meeting for an audit, and where do we stand on that?
Well, no one's done an audit.
That's
So that would
right.
be part of you.
But we-
Unless it's a line item you can carry over. Was it just done as an operating? It doesn't show in your operating budget, so I don't know. You did some OPEB money,
yes, but I think we had an article for an audit.
separate article?
Separate article.
Well, I will look for that article, because then it will,
We could be
if it's a
doing,
separate article, then it will be against
Yeah.
this
Give me a
amount.
warrant, I'll look for it.
Okay. But just wanted to put you on alert. The
Yeah.
best thing to do is to do all three, because he level funds it for 3 years and you don't get any increases. So,
Okay.
and 16's pretty much, I think, standard.
well,
for them.
we had money for an OPEB study too.
You did $900.
Okay, and how much you're looking for? A lot more.
$5,800.
Okay.
But I gave you,
Now, this is just for the study, not,
that's just the study, but I gave you, I think, just so you would understand, I gave you the letter from the OPEB people, so you could get a sense of what they actually do as part of their analysis. because it's really kind of quite extensive, what they're gonna do for the OPEB analysis. So I wanted you to have a chance to look at that, because that's what that 5,800
Oh,
is.
this is, oh, Odyssey, okay.
Right, and it has to meet the GASB standards. There's a
So is
standard.
this a contract, or you're just assuming that,
No, these prices are actual. They've been sent to me.
well, what I meant was in 2020, so we're getting
No,
one
I'll sign a
contract for
contract.
both,
I'll sign a contract with Scanlon
for the 58, and then you're gonna sign a contract for
for all 3 years, if we do the 816, yes. He'll give us for all 3
For the
years.
16, I was talking
Yeah.
about the study. You have two
I
studies
estimated
in-
2 years, you should
Okay.
do them every 2 years, so I
So
just
you-
estimated
okay,
2 years
okay,
out, so
I
you
got-
would
okay.
see that in 2 years, you're gonna be doing another OPEB. You're supposed to do OPEB every 2 years.
There's no contract for that? Okay.
No, I just put that in there as sort of an estimate, figuring
I
that this
got
is
it.
58, so that you could see in 2 years' time,
Mm-hmm.
you'd be looking at a similar number to do that. And so, I mean, I gave you the letter that he proposed for the audit, but I wanted you to have a few more pages on this vendor to explain to you really what the OPEB is going to look like.
Yep.
And what it really,
Okay.
What it
And,
really
all right,
means.
so this, for the OPEB study, we also will be wanting, when we put our budget together, to put money into it.
correct, that's different, that's your trust fund.
Yes.
Right, you
So,
can fund your
okay.
trust fund. Now, the thing about the OPEB study that you really need done is, it's going to tell you what you should be putting in annually. And that would be really helpful too, I mean, to get a current number. And it'll tell you your OPEB liability, what you have in your trust fund, and what you really should be funding annually going forward.
We only got it once, and it was several years old.
Yeah.
Right, so you should be doing it every 2
Yeah,
years.
this is good. Okay.
So
We can talk about funding the trust fund if you want, with some money, but I didn't put it on the capital schedule.
So are we thinking about putting it on any kind of schedule if she hasn't asked for it this year? Are we trying to think ahead a little?
I think what we should do is see what everything's gonna cost us and see if we do have any money.
So if you have some money, you could put some money in the
Yeah.
trust fund.
And when we have.
We're not, this would be zero for the year.
But right now, we haven't put it in this year. So now the
Yeah.
technology upgrade, I do have a number there,
She's got it down for 20 and 22.
right, for the next ones. But for the technology upgrade, that number is an estimated cost based on several pages of techno speak. So there was, talking about servers and thin clients and workstations and VMware and client licenses and server licenses and CALs and, so this number's not made up, in a sense. It really was what someone said, because I said I won't be doing this till like January. This would be a January. So I would estimate the project at 35,000 as a safe
Okay, now,
number.
what's that going to include? Is it going to include this equipment that you set in place in lieu of the
Yes,
computer?
it's going to upgrade us all the way, and it talks about backup. Your
Okay.
current system is backed up on premise only, and all that stuff. So it goes through the entire process, which I can create a bid from this. It's got enough
So the
documentation.
35 is a startup, right? Because aren't you gonna have to add to that each year?
No.
Are you gonna give everybody a new computer?
Well, we don't need computers.
Well, I know, but
Right. You can take what's currently working and make it your thin client until it's time to replace it.
Okay.
So we wouldn't necessarily need to replace, that's why it's sort of an estimate. They would have to come in and assess that. So somebody whose computer is only, 2 or 3 years old, well, we're not gonna replace that with a thin client. We'll just let them work off that
Sure.
as the thin client until such a time. So until someone comes in and does a full analysis, it's an estimate. There may be some of these computers that can stay, so this could be less based on what they find, but I can't really ask anybody to do that for me if I'm not giving them the job. I mean, it was nice enough to do this much for me.
But you
But
said
I'll bid it.
you have an inventory of all the computers in the year they were purchased, I think you said once.
Yes, that's from our current provider.
And you're going to be working.
Now, I am working with a gentleman from your technology committee. In fact, we're meeting Thursday, if there is a Thursday.
Jerry.
Yes, I'm
Scott.
meeting with Jerry, and so I am working with him on this. He hasn't had a chance to read all of this yet, so
Okay.
that he can review it as well. He's, fairly knowledgeable, and I want to make sure that he's get a set of eyes to review this and get his take and his opinion
Okay.
on what he
good.
thinks as well. But I just wanted to have a number for you tonight, and I wanted to base it on something factual that somebody had at least gone through our system and literally talked about the hardware and the software and services.
So this also includes the laptops that secretaries, or whatever they call them, the people who take the minutes at the meetings
Administrative
and
assistants or something.
administrative assistants have.
I'm not I don't have any, I have whatever's on that sheet, so I don't have any
Well-
laptops.
No, wasn't there just the one for ZBA? Wasn't that the one and only?
I thought there
I thought there was one or two, I thought.
Yeah, I think
But
there were a few
at
more.
least I know there's one out there as far as that, but I'm not sure.
My computer's a laptop,
Yeah, but
but if I want to work it, I have to take it home with me
Yeah,
because
yes.
I can't remote in.
But I think there are a
but will
few
you
more
with this new
floating.
system probably,
I'll
right?
I'll just put a thin clip
Debbie
in there and
had
remote in.
an
I won't
old
ever
one,
have to
didn't she?
carry it.
So yeah, but what I was getting at as far as doing that, you have technology, but you might need more technology in the upcoming years.
If you decide to stay with laptops, I would be very careful if those laptops can access your system,
No, you don't want to do that.
because you're now
No.
entering into your system through someone's laptop. So I would be more inclined that if someone's attending a meeting here with them, that they take it right on the computer in the office while they're having the meeting, as opposed to actually carrying around laptops. The more you really don't want that introduced into your system, because that laptop can go anywhere. And then when it comes back,
Correct.
We were very, very hesitant about laptops. to begin with.
laptops can be very dangerous.
Yeah.
People don't even know they're doing things.
But
That's the problem.
there are some here. I don't know if they actually
And I think
access a system,
That's what we
Right.
would have to address when we do
Right.
this whole system.
because they wanted the flexibility of going home.
And the analysis they also have to do is what software are people using? It all has to become compatible. This is a big job to
Right.
get a new system, which
Actually, I'm
everybody's
surprised it's
software.
so little.
Yeah, and
That's what I was shocked at that number.
I thought it would be 60 grand.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about reusing some of the servers that we have.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't replace everything. We do need one
They
more
aren't that
server. We
old,
need a
yeah.
terminal server, but some of the stuff that's down there is totally reusable. We're talking about keeping computers that can be thin clients now. We don't have to replace every piece of hardware on everyone's desk if it's still functional.
Debbie had a laptop and she would take it to town meeting with her. So if there were any changes voted at town meeting that were different from what we were recommending, she could input it and see the effect right away.
It's just you have to be very careful.
Yeah.
Laptops.
So there's must be one down there somewhere.
Correct, we do use
Yeah.
this basically as a thin client
Right, you could.
currently.
I mean,
And I
that's
know-
what mine is. Mine is essentially my computer because but I can't remote in. So if I want to do any work at all, I have to take it with me. And then when I go back in, it will then
Okay.
save to the system
Oh,
once it updates.
yeah.
I'm not saving anything until I reconnect.
Well, this sounds good. I think you're doing,
So
Well-
this is kind of where we're at right now. Like I said, we're going to find other little pieces. Phil and I are going to do our best to make things look like they used to, but you may see things look a little differently. Obviously, we're working with someone else's software, so trying to someone else's spreadsheet, so making the things
A whole
work.
page in the printout is all these
I think there were,
deleted.
One thing
Nothing wrong with simplifying.
One thing I did want to talk to you about, I am working on a couple of different things. I didn't bring the compensation sheet. Hopefully next year, this one I'm still working on. Phil gave me another piece today. I'm working on a spreadsheet that shows everybody, what they make, step, grade, just,
Yes.
it's a master spreadsheet. But one of the reasons to do that is to track. But the other thing is it also then computes our Medicare, and it computes the payroll taxes off of the actual salaries. So that was another piece. It also would allow me to then put in a COLA, and you would see the actual effect of that COLA across the entire town's payroll. For example, if you put in a 1%, it would tell you that's $30,000 because it would compute it
and
for the
steps,
entire payroll.
Yeah. You know, there's,
So something you should know when you're considering COLA is what's the effect of a COLA? 1%,
Oh, yeah.
2%, 2.5%. What's that going to do to the entire town's budget?
We used to get that from the
Deb.
accountant when she.
I'm sure she's putting it in a different spreadsheet and doing it.
Yes,
I have
yeah.
one spreadsheet that would compute all that.
Sure. There's
on
one
multiple
account
pages.
I'm thinking of, and now it changed to animal control officer.
Oh, yes. And that's not on these budget sheets. I'm glad you brought that up. It's in the master total budget that I was looking down, but it doesn't seem to have it's not on here. I don't know where it shows up in the budget.
Used to be dog officer.
Dog
so
Right.
it's a line
It's
like
animal
that.
control, and I know there's an animal inspector in the Board of Health budget, but that's different.
Different.
Yes.
So, the animal control officer, yes, currently, you have a line item for dog officer. We would change that to animal control officer. And the proposed scenario is to join the regional animal
Yes.
control services. The reason to do that is multifold. First of all, the sheriff's department is going to provide this individual and pay for half their salary and their benefits, provide them with a vehicle and technology, laptop, and equipment to provide this service. They would work closely with the regional shelter, which has been an excellent operation.
Yeah.
So I think that would dovetail quite nicely. Dan would probably work with them quite closely because they will also be responsible for dealing with the licensing part and making sure that they help track down licensing.
And it'd be an assessment to the towns.
Right. So right now you currently budget a $3,600 salary and $2,400 in expenses. So it's about, you budget $6,000, or at least you did last year. This would change to about $9,500. The salary would be, our assessment would be $87.25, and I put in some expenses. To round it up, I did $775 because I don't know what the town's expense might be at this time. It might be that we end up with zero there next year, but I'm not sure what they think the town's piece would be in terms of that. So that took it to $9,500. Now, I know that seems like a huge change, but I think what you're going to get for is, first of all, the law changed. Your animal control officer has to be certified, and you have to send them to school for that.
How long ago did it change?
3 years? 3 years, 4 years ago?
Well, basically for the last
They changed the law for certification for
past
animal
4
control.
years that I've been registering dogs, we really haven't had well, he was a dog officer basically as far as doing that, but really wasn't doing everything he could for the job. So basically the animal control officer now will be able to take care of, the dogs as far as doing it, but also kennels. We have 6 kennels in the town of Northfield as far as doing that, and need to be inspected annually, and they weren't getting inspected as well as they should have. So I was a little concerned with that, and so were the dog owners. The kennel owners wanted to have a little bit more inspection. Actually, they want to make sure they're being inspected. They want to make sure that anybody that is a kennel is inspected and passes inspection. So this is a good thing as far as doing it.
Right,
So
and
is
they-
it a little bit more work for me? No, it makes my life easier.
No, I think it would make your life easier.
Then I can just concentrate on making sure they're all registered, and if there's a complaint coming in, I have someone that I know I can call and
Right,
back
and
it up.
they will be trained in the law. There is a new requirement that all certified all towns must have an animal control officer, and these animal control officers must attend the training and certification. That's a week-long, full-day class, which you pay for, and then they have to keep up their certification with continuing. So at any rate, even if you got an animal control officer, you would have to increase your budget because you're going to have to send them to school, pay to transport them, and that's never close by, so you'll be paying their mileage. I mean, you were going to probably have to come up with $1,000.
And the other thing, they're not just dog officers. They're not just
Yes.
looking after dogs. They're looking
Animal
at all the
control.
animals in the town as far as doing that. So that makes it a little bit more.
We
Yes.
terminated
of a-
our relationship with that dog, so-called dog officer.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
he's
you
no
have-
longer
and
You
employed.
now-
have an interim animal control officer. It's a police officer
Yep.
because in the statute, you can make a police officer an interim animal control officer because they have some authorities that, as a police
Okay.
officer, that an average citizen does not have. Animal control officers now are they actually have quite a lot of authority, and they can actually carry a badge. They can actually be licensed to carry a gun. They are called to the scene when there's anything involving an animal. They have certain authorities to enter and remove animals from premises. All of this through their certification as animal control officers now. So it's really ramped up as a
So one of the officers was willing to take on
Yes.
that
correct.
function.
Correct. And so if anybody needs the animal control officer, they call the non-emergency 625-8200, and they will then alert the animal control officer that there's an issue.
Now, as I understand it, the town has not yet, through the select board, made a decision to join the regional.
They made a commitment by voting support, but there's no contract yet to be signed.
Okay.
But it would be signed with the sheriff's office.
So when that happens, then our own local animal control officer would no longer.
Correct.
Okay.
He's only
Let-
appointed till June 30th, and
Yeah.
then this program will start. We believe
Sure.
we were hoping it might start earlier, that the sheriff's office might ramp it up on their own funds a little bit
Yeah.
and get it going, which they might still.
Sure.
At that time, you would appoint that person and
And my
sign the
understanding, he's
contract.
very interested in this job himself, so.
Right, and he could apply.
You may just transition into that, get the,
Oh.
yeah, so, yeah.
You know,
Under-
yeah,
under
it's
the
Yeah.
it's going to be a full-time benefited position with the sheriff's department.
Yeah.
When they will be responsible for all the training and all of that. So it's
Okay.
$3,500 more.
it is, but when
Right.
animal control goes bad,
Right.
So
It
that
goes
will
back
be in the
quickly.
budget here somewhere.
it is on the master budget sheet. It just doesn't seem to have a page. It doesn't seem to be on the
Placeholder?
budget page.
Get a placeholder, that's all, right?
Yeah, well, it is on where I'm filling out now.
Okay.
Everybody's budget's on the
Yep,
master
yep.
sheet. Animal control, or it said dog officer, I've changed it, is in the budget. So hopefully when I start to get all those numbers together and give you guys some,
That's when we'll need it.
well, you'll at least see it there. It's already
Sure.
there. It just didn't seem to have a place to go in the budget. The
Okay.
sheets that I had at any rate.
All right.
So that was a piece, and I was glad to hear that was going forward. I did participate when I was in Buckland in those meetings, because Buckland also is looking at the regional, being a member of the region. So I did attend those meetings and hear about that program and work on, because we worked as a group on the actual agreement with the sheriff's office and job description and those kinds of things.
Okay,
There's
Well,
one
maybe-
last thing, I'm just gonna pass this out to you guys to take a look at. And I'll pass, there's extras here, so you can just take one of those and pass them around. This is what I'm proposing, this is not set in stone, nor is the funding of it, because things move. This is what I'm proposing, hopefully by next year, to have in place, so that when you're looking at capital requests, you will have some sense of the long-term picture. I know you had a big one, but this is simply by department, and I started out,
The biggest department.
yeah, there's 3 different ones. So you should get 3 different ones. And, there's like 12 copies, so you'll have extras, so. The idea is that you would start to see, and I just asked them to please put it in, the life expectancy and where it would fall. Nothing's been moved here. It doesn't mean that any one of
Right.
these are any particular year. It's just so you could see what your departments, first of all, own
get an extra, please. for
on one
somebody.
page, what they're thinking the life expectancy of that is. Now that shifts, that moves, it's very fluid, because sometimes something lasts a lot longer than you think, sometimes something doesn't. But just sort of an idea. So this is just to give you a sense of where we're going. The bottom piece, which I don't have on all of them, is the idea of how do you fund this? If you decide this is your route, how do you go? What would you need each year? Would you vote a flat amount each year to try and fund this
You gave out
account?
3, is that
There's
correct?
3 different,
Yeah.
fire,
Yeah,
police, and highway.
Okay.
More can be done, but those are the 3, because I started with the vehicle fleet
Now-
schedule. It was also an interesting experience. 'cause
I've
some of-
saved last year's
Yeah.
budget requests, which had the capital requests on them. I don't think you're gonna need them with going with this from 19 forward.
Well, this one has the requests for this year on it.
No, I have last year's,
Yeah.
a year ago. I saved those.
This just starts with 19. I took this year's fleet schedule that the insurance company said, here's what we're insuring on behalf of your town.
Yeah.
I wanted to, first of all, make sure, we actually found some interesting things doing that. But we're good now.
Okay. No, I just,
Because
you
the
know,
departments think one thing and doesn't always translate through to the insurance company.
sure,
um,
sure.
So, but then I said, is there anything you guys have that's not on this, and vice versa? There are things on here that shouldn't be. We found a couple things that actually should have been removed, deleted from the schedule because they were taken off the road, but nobody had bothered to tell the insurance company they were taken off the road. So, so we've kind of cleaned that up a little bit. You know, nothing major. There's nothing terribly scary, but I think
And
that
what's-
going forward, if this is
Right.
just sort of available to see, you can see what you're coming up on, and you can actually make some
What's
decisions.
police stabilization here?
Oh, that was if you had an account that's just for the police department. For example, if you decide that you want to fund the police or highway or fire as a capital entity and say, okay, in order to do our schedule by moving these things around, we need $20,000 a year in the police department's capital request, and that would then fund
see.
every single year. You would have an account that you did just for police, and you would vote that money in separately.
Okay.
So I just called it that. It would be like a police savings account.
All right.
If you set it up that way. It isn't on everything. I haven't really completed this. Highway's always the hardest one because the vehicles are very expensive. And what happens often years is they bunch up until you start to spread them out. This is what happens when you start to see there's groupings. And all of a sudden there's this big clump then you say, okay, what can we spread out? What can we move? What's in good shape? And it just gives you the opportunity to try and level out some of your capital requests. And then you can look at it in concert going forward with what's going to hit what year in all the departments.
Okay, sounds good.
So
I
I
think
just,
it's an excellent idea. It's nice to see. And we know that this is not in stone, the dollars or the years
No,
or
no,
anything. It's
and
just getting it out there
I asked
first.
them to tell me what vehicle
Right.
I said, just literally give it a lifespan and put it on the schedule. Don't move anything yet.
Yeah.
If you think it's a 10-year vehicle and it's a 2018, it's gonna come due in 2028, just put it there.
Yeah.
It may not be the case, but it gives us a sense of how long the department thinks that vehicle's gonna last and when it should start to show up on your radar screen. And what does that mean? And what do they think it's valued at? Because most of them know how much their vehicles cost because they know they're looking forward into the future and they are looking around their own equipment and seeing what other people are paying. So I just wanted to give you those to look at. I'm working on them with the departments. There's just sort of internal working documents for you, but hopefully if I get them set up, each year you guys would get an update, and that would allow you to kind of see the progression of what should be coming, not only this year or next year, but 10 years out.
Good. I'm going back to the list of budgets, and you tell me, you can save me looking it up. Is the building inspector in here in what you did tonight?
The building inspector, I thought, was in the, he doesn't give me a budget, his budget. Is he in the Board of Health?
No.
He actually does his own.
I don't have his pages.
Should.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
haven't got one.
So we need the building inspector?
Usually it,
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have his pages, so it must have gone to him.
yeah, I don't have it. Okay. You just did answer this. Emergency management, we got an answer on.
Got that.
Fire. Tech school, we know is
Right.
coming. You got the cog. Tech school, I think, votes in another week or so on theirs.
I think they had an estimated number I may have even used in my first draft, because in the handout they gave you, there's
Yeah.
a number.
Yeah, there is a number there.
Yes.
But it
Yes,
wasn't.
but
It hasn't been voted, but yes,
Right.
it's
Yeah,
their
Right.
estimated number.
okay, and PVRS, of course,
Don't have anything from them yet.
no. And the sewer? all
I
they-
don't have anything from the sewer yet.
No, all they gave us was a figure once and said they had to work out the detail. They'd had staff turnover and so forth.
Right.
Never heard any more from them.
I'm out, yeah, I've met with Chelsea a couple times. She seems really on the ball. And I think that, she's coming on kind of late in
She's
the
only
process.
been here for less than, 2 weeks?
2 weeks, right, so,
Yeah.
I don't know whether they're giving her that or whether they're working on it with her, but I think she'll be able to get into that, and certainly by next year, she'll be hands-on. She seems very sharp.
Okay, so that's my list of budgets.
So
that we-
building and sewer, okay,
Yeah,
She asked for her budget today.
yes,
okay.
that's good, that means she's on it. She's come in several times asking questions, very good and timely questions. So I think she's.
All right, does anybody have anything further they want to ask? Sounds good. So far, so good.
Right, so let me know if there's anything you want from me. I'm trying to get all the pieces together. Phil and I do have an appointment this week for the financial team appointment, so we'll try and start putting together what we can. But if you see something that you want backup data, this is my budget book, so I'm trying to put everything in here by department and all the backup data by department. So hopefully, I will have.
And I don't think there's anything I have now that you don't have.
I don't think so. Basically, I've taken the spreadsheet from the budget.
Yes.
From 19 and made a fiscal 20 column on it, and so
Yeah.
I'm starting to add in to see where all the pieces go.
And did you say you don't have the tech school figure?
I do.
You
Well,
do
I have the figure
was-
that they put.
What was in that big
Just
form?
a
Right, they
guess.
haven't
Just a
voted
guess.
it yet. They
That's
haven't
all
sent
I
their,
have, too.
Right, they haven't sent their
No.
assessment letter, but they will.
Yeah.
So the schools.
So
are-
that's all right. So,
Right.
okay, we're all set.
So I
then on
think
that.
I've got most of the big
Oh.
assessments and the.
Okay, very good.
But like I said, if you see anything missing, just shoot me an email or feel free to ask me a question.
Okay.
I'm learning along with everyone else.
Okay. The way I see it now, I don't think we need to meet next week. We've gone through all the budgets that we've received. How about a week off, or 2 weeks off maybe?
Well, if you're going to meet on the 5th, I'm going to actually commandeer you at 6 o'clock for a.
We're not going to meet
Non-partisan.
on the 5th.
There you go.
You want to give a commercial for your,
Yes, on March. Well, it's going to be on the town webpage tomorrow. But March 5th, the nonpartisan caucus will convene at 6:30 p.m. downstairs, and that's the way we help to set the ballot for this year. That's one way to get on the ballot. Also, you'll see in the paper in the next couple of days that you can pick up nomination papers in my office, and you can be put on the ballot that way. You need 20 signatures. I suggest you get 25 just to make sure that they're okay. But there are some positions that are open. I'll have that in the paper in the next couple of days as far as doing that.
he needs 25 people there. We have to have,
25
quorum.
registered voters have to be at the caucus in order to do business. If we don't do that, it gets postponed. It just throws a real monkey wrench into the whole process as far as doing that. There are some people that I know are running or are incumbents that are showing that they want to be reelected or want to be on the ballot, so they'll be coming forth hopefully on March 5th as far as doing that. If anybody has any questions that are out there, if they want to give me a call in my office, I can go over all the things that they need to know. It's a very easy process, a nonpartisan caucus, as far as doing it. It's a way of seeing how the town actually operates. So come one, come all. Hear ye, hear ye.
very good. Okay, so next week is the 26th, and I said we're not meeting. And the following week is the 5th that Dan just talked about. What we need to take up is the articles. And that will be, did you want to talk about the rest of the budget before we get the articles? Is that what you were suggesting, Bonnie?
No. I was just saying that any of these floating things would be nice to have those dollars. So when we do start talking about the budget, we have an idea of, oh my God.
So you're talking mostly the schools that we don't have.
Well,
really
the schools and
concrete.
the fire
As
for
soon
that
as I
whole.
Oh, yes, exactly.
As soon as I get everybody, I
Yeah.
can at least shoot you out well, here's what last year looked like, here's what this year looked like.
Yes.
And you can see just the bottom line. Now, what I don't have yet is the COLA, so that's gonna mess
Right.
that up, but you could see a side-by-side comparison at the very least. I've already been filling in a 20. It'd be a very bare bones spreadsheet, but at least show you this was what this department got in 19 and this is what they're asking for.
Do you want to talk about a COLA tonight?
And then that's, the COLA was.
What we've done in the past is go by what the federal government has given, and pretty much, and that was 2.8 this year.
2.8?
Yes.
Is that what you said? Okay.
So, are you going to have that discussion?
I'd
Yeah.
like to see the overall.
What we have to work on?
Yeah.
Okay. 'Cause
Well,
I'm just saying that if we're going to have that discussion, I just have to leave, that's all.
I think we need to see what dollars we
Stay.
have in the school and all that.
maybe you could,
That's way-
you've got it put together now in a spreadsheet that maybe you could tell us what 2.8 would cost?
Not yet, but
She's going to. down the
at
road.
some,
Will
at
have.
some point, I'm working on, yes, I'm working on a spreadsheet that would
All right.
put any number in, but Phil might even have one. I don't know if she had created one in the past. You
I
haven't seen
haven't
it.
seen one,
You haven't come across it, but.
which is why I was gonna follow
Right,
up with you.
we're meeting to talk about what he's got and what I've got
Okay.
and
All right.
what we're actually gonna be able to present to
Somehow
you.
she did it because she always had a couple
Oh, I'm
different
sure.
options for us.
I'm sure
But
she
I'd like
did.
to see the big bottom line picture of how much we got and maybe we can do more or less. You
All
never
right.
know.
Well, let's just leave it that we will
Yeah.
not meet next week. We probably will not meet on the 5th, but
So
we
that'd be
then
12th.
have to get together and
Can we set a date now?
That would be the 12th then if you're going to go to
Are we
the,
still doing Tuesdays?
well, still, we're going to meet on Tuesdays because we've swapped with the select
And I'll
board.
see what
I
I
didn't know
can,
how long
Tell-
that would be, that's all.
but
we
is
can get
it,
together. I can
before
get
we
together
go
for
on, so
articles.
the Tuesdays, is that going to be forever? Are we talking about that now?
Well,
Because I just have to think about adjusting something, that's all.
yeah. Well, as I understand it, one of the select board members asked to have it changed, and it was better for another select board member to do the change to Monday nights. And so they were trying to find a night, and I said, we'll see if we could consider, so we considered the swap. As far as I know, it's for the current year anyway.
I think so. I think she had it all the way through,
Okay,
Yeah.
at least
Okay.
till the fiscal, at least all the
okay.
way.
So, all
Okay.
right.
That answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
All right, so we'll meet on the 12th
Well,
or the 19th? Or
That would be our normal date if we're going to the, back
Third
to our regular
Tuesday?
schedule.
I keep miss,
third
Well, where is
Tuesday?
he? Where are we?
all right, here
The
we are.
19th is March.
Warrant articles, warrant closes March 25th. So
That doesn't mean you can't,
No,
we can start talking
you
about.
can still
On the
change it, the
19th,
select board
yeah.
can still,
Sure.
that just means that if
So
anyone
we
has a
have-
petition article, they have to have it.
So why don't we talk about meeting on the 12th then?
12th.
Or do you want to meet on the 5th? 5th means you've got to come and go to his caucus.
You're gonna have to come, you're gonna have to come a little early.
Adjourn, go to the caucus and then re-adjourn.
Well, if I don't have enough, well, this would be nice. I have 8 members right here. I only need 17 more. Why? You know? Oh, that's right. That's when you're gone. That's when you're gone.
So we're gonna,
Okay.
so we're gonna meet on the 12th?
At least by the 12th, yes.
Okay.
At our same 6 p.m.
Yes,
Okay.
6
Okay.
o'clock, yeah. I think we've decided that for our
Okay.
meetings works, yeah.
You're going to be on my speed dial device for this 5th, though.
But on the 5th, we'll have to see whether we, probably don't need to, but remember, when we get to that, we're gonna have to really work through
Right, we'll
articles
see,
and
we
budget
should
and
see
so
what we
forth.
can get everything together.
So there's a possibility of being the 12th and then the 19th then, right? Or maybe even 2 days in a row.
I wouldn't do 2 days in a row, 12 and 19.
2 weeks in a row.
If we, yeah,
No.
probably. Sometimes it all comes together quickly at the end.
Lois, when is the meeting with all of the other towns again? Is that the
Regional.
19th?
Yeah, the regional,
Regional meeting with the 4 towns?
March 18th,
The 18th?
March 18th.
Monday.
Okay.
yeah,
And that is going to be back over in Bernardston, I believe.
yes it is. And I don't know yet, they talked about maybe in the senior center over there, which is a separate building. And
So
to
that's 3.
give an update on that, all we know is that Andrea has written a letter from the Northfield Select Board and Finance Committee, and one went out from all of them, all of the 4 towns and so forth, saying what we had agreed on, and that was that we do not want the debt rolled into the operating budget, and there's precedent for that. The technology debt was never put into that. Even the building debt was separate.
Mm-hmm.
And we want 5-year loan rather than 10-year loan. And I think we've probably just about given up on trying to get the second payment on the lunch.
Yeah, we really don't want to have any kind of debt put into their annual budget
No, we
because
don't.
they would just scoff it up as soon as it's paid up.
Yeah.
That's right.
And just be an automatic increase.
That's right. I see no justification for it. So we're protesting to the school committee, the superintendent, Department of Revenue. The other one's going to Department of Revenue, to DESE, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. That's
The
next.
commissioner, yeah.
Yeah, commission, and state reps, so forth. So that's where that stands. Okay, we have minutes for
Can you
Thank you.
let her leave?
Thank you.
February 5th.
Thank you for coming and I appreciate what you're doing right now.
No problem.
Take it on.
No problem, don't say that.
I wander the building aimlessly looking for people, Dan can tell.
Yeah. You've taken a big bite so far.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
No problem, everybody will be on you.
Want to take up the minutes first?
Yeah, the 5th.
I move we accept as presented.
Motion been made to accept the minutes as presented. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
One abstention.
One abstention.
Yeah, I would,
Okay. And today is the 19th. Okay, yeah. And the communications, as I said, is the COG, and she had that figure. And this is just another copy of the fire department. Okay. Reports, meetings attended, representing Finance Committee. Tony, anything?
Well, let's see. We did hear something, well, this is for the Community Preservation Committee, we did hear something about the plaque
Yeah,
downstairs. I don't think he's going to follow up on that with any new thing.
okay.
But we are having a meeting. He may show up and with something.
Was the visitor tonight anything to do with CPA that came and then left?
No,
I don't think
no, I think they just came in to see what's going on probably. Because they were historic.
He's historic
Yeah, she
commission.
would be in a historic commission,
I
yeah.
think they were meeting or something.
They had a meeting.
Okay. So, okay.
And we are meeting again, let's see, next week? Yeah, next week. To hear from the Northfield Farms Library
Oh, yeah, about the doors.
about the doors.
Okay.
I think that's all about that one. The Art Committee, we just got a nearly finished version of the district agreement. It has gone to DESE.
Oh.
Came back with some comments, some
Okay.
of which we had already, I guess he submitted a copy of that before our last meeting of the Art Committee.
Oh,
It came back with some comments that we had discussed at the last meeting and
okay.
made those changes already.
Oh, okay.
So we're really close on that area.
I understand the Heart Committee meeting is meeting tomorrow night,
That's is my understanding.
and I got the posting today.
You got the posting today.
I had somebody that took whatever they had for posting and they posted it or thought they posted it themselves on Friday. That is an illegal post. So you may want to tell them that they have an illegal meeting going on unless they get it posted someplace else in another town. They forgot Monday was a holiday.
I hate that Monday holiday. Anyway, I will call and tell them.
Yeah, tell them that basically it could be considered an illegal meeting, so.
Okay, unless they want to change it,
Can't do
I'm
it.
not gonna bring it up, but if somebody makes a stink as far as doing that, then,
well, I will.
was it on the TV?
That's right.
It's not the first time, that's why I'm bringing it
Yeah,
up.
right.
Keep forgetting those Monday holidays.
I don't know who's responsible for getting the meetings posted,
No,
but
what,
I will
yeah.
let them know.
you can also explain to them, the only person that can post a meeting are the town clerks.
Okay.
They can't post their own meeting.
No, I think they know that.
Well, they try to,
They tried to.
yep.
Okay.
Okay,
And so, we're close on that.
yes, all right.
I think the bone of contention here is compensations for towns that may lose a school.
Yes.
What does that look like? That was really the most contentious thing that we were talking about the last time.
Okay.
Other than that, where was it?
Okay, thank you.
The
You
governance committee meeting.
You heard tonight when we talked with Skip about,
Yeah. So far, there's been, I have not attended or have there been any scheduled meetings of the Public Safety Building Committee, and I've not received any future dates of meetings as of today. As of the governance committee, we met last week, and we're making progress on finalizing up where we're going for a report. So we're on track, on making continuous progress, and we should be, like I said, we're continuing to move forward.
okay, thank you. I have nothing else on topics. So we've said the next meeting will be on the 12th.
Yep.
Okay, does anyone have anything else to bring up tonight? If not,
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned 8:07.